So, The Last of Us 2, quite an interesting and divisive ride. First off, I want to preface this video by saying The Last of Us 2 is not a bad game. I'll probably get some hate for this, but I thoroughly enjoyed this game. However, it's not flawless. The gameplay is a noticeable step up from the first, with some more interesting upgrade trees and levels that allow for creative freedom. Also, the dodge button is a welcome addition as it makes you feel claustrophobic in certain fights, and it gets you into the heat of the action. I also believe that if you want to experience the newer mechanics more in this game, you need to play in the harder difficulties. When you're playing on Survivor difficulty, it tends to get a little more tense, and the combat seems to feel a little more situational in how you approach things. The lower difficulties give you far too much ammo, and when I played on Survivor difficulty, I truly had tense stealth gameplay that I needed to perform in order to survive, otherwise it was game over. You can't shoot your way out of most scenarios here, and in order to live, you'll need to use the pro mechanic in order to find your way around and be stealthy and know when to kill and when not to. This provides a nice cat and mouse game with enemies. Combat is extremely brutal, with sounds like people choking on their own blood as you slice their throats, or sounds of impaling someone with an axe is all really done well. There's also a surprise boss fight with a new infected that I thoroughly enjoyed, and I won't spoil for you for anyone who doesn't want to be leaked on this. I will say that the clickers in this game can be a tad annoying and sometimes unfair when they hear you. I do think the game is stunning. It's one of the most stunning games I've ever played on consoles, with character models and environments having so much detail. I had literally had to stop and look around to enjoy it from time to time. Like, it's just breathtaking at some of the detail that they've put into this. On playing on the PS4 Pro, I think kind of shows a little bit off more. I'm going to go in a bit of a story beat, so I feel like this is the main reason for the video, because I think the gameplay kind of speaks for itself. Either you enjoyed the gameplay of the first one, or you didn't, and in which case, I mean, if you're playing this game for the gameplay game, then you didn't enjoy it in the first, you're not going to be too well timid about this one either. I do think the story here does tend to be a little more on the divisive end, and I think that's by design, of course. The story beats I'll get up to, or obviously it kind of goes without saying that it's going to be pretty spoiler heavy, although I myself got spoiled months in advance on the major story beats when the leaking happened, and at the time I thought, oh boy, this game is going to flop pretty fucking hard, and I'm kind of glad to have had a conversation with one of my buddies, and he kind of cleared me up on the perspective how one of the incidents that occurred, this incident being Joel's death, it would have been a lot more shocking in the moment had I actually not been spoiled, and I think it would have shown a bit more of the emotions as to the character you're playing as. Ellie is supposed to be feeling that shock factor, like, oh my fucking god, this is happening. So yeah, I thought this game was going to be a major flop when it was announced and spoiled for me. I will say, though, that the golf memes that were created were pretty funny at the time.
Oh! Somebody! Oh! He needs some milk!
They were quite a laugh. Now, I love Joel in the first game, but to think that he was going to survive part 2 to this is pretty naive. The reveal trailer, although he was in it, made it pretty obvious that this was a revenge story where the death of Joel was going to be the main story beat. I mean, it's fairly obvious. He walks in the room and this trailer, and it seems like an apparition of himself. It's not like he's actually there. I think this trailer was designed to be that way. Also, to think that he made the right choice at the end of the game was dumb too. He murdered people trying to make the world a better place. But we reconcile with him because we got to experience the world through his eyes through the 11-hour journey. We got to care for him. We got to understand his motives. We got to understand the pain that he feels on a day-to-day basis. And it makes you connect with him emotionally. You see the helplessness he goes through when he could do nothing to save his daughter, Sarah. You see the lack of meaning in his life when it flashes 20 years later. And you also see that spark come back to him when Ellie allows him to feel human again. Every time he has a reminder, he looks back at his broken watch on the first game. It's a great attention to detail, it's fantastic. However, Joel's story was told, and this is a world where there is no hope for a better future, and everything is just as shit as it is in this game as it was in the first game for some of the story beats. Tess dies early on as we start to feel something for her in the first game. Henry and Sam die trying to get back to their friends who are most likely dead since there is no mention of them and they can't seem to find them, and I'm pretty sure Joel and Ellie go to that station the next day just to see if they are, and they're probably not there. And Joel goes and takes the one choice away from Ellie when she says it can't be for nothing. I mean, that's some of the arguments I see is that on YouTube is where this game makes Joel's choice meaningless. Joel makes Ellie's choice in the first game to go and continue on that journey meaningless. I don't think people seem to see that. However, when you get into, like, gamers, I feel like we kind of like to want to see those epic moments. We want to play those epic moments. We want to always go on those revenge quests and always go and get it. Sometimes the story doesn't need to have a full-on meaning for you to get it. But, you know, we knew the backstory of the first game. And if you do see it that way, where you think that Tess, Henry, Sam, and the people that they encounter along the journey who helped them through their journey in the first game don't help them in a way to make the story of the first game where they find a cure or they produce a cure all for something meaningless, then it's kind of dumb to see it that way. Joel was never painted as a hero in the first game. He was never meant to be painted as a hero. The game isn't about superheroes or fantasy. He was painted as a man who couldn't go through the pain of losing another daughter, whom he grew to love. We knew his backstory, where he and Tommy did anything to survive, which still gives Tommy nightmares about what they did, and you kind of get to see a little bit more expanded upon of the shit that they did within Tommy in this game. So what was the point of the story? Well, the point was to show that anyone in this world can get caught up in revenge, and the parallels between Abby and Ellie are uncanny and played off actually pretty well. Abby starts the game off by having lost her dad at the end of the first game and getting revenge on Joel. Pretty basic stuff with the decision that was made at the end of the first game. Ellie, Tommy, and Dina start off by picking names off the list of everyone that was in the room when Joel died. Abby loses friends from acting on her revenge, and so does Ellie. Jesse gets shot. Manny gets shot. People just die. All in this circle of revenge that goes on. As Ellie dives deeper into revenge, it's not a regret she feels, but that empty void of killing people is shown whenever her hand shakes. Again, a reference to the first game whenever they kind of backtrack and she thinks about Joel, or whenever Joel thought about Sarah, there was that key little thing that there was brought in from the first game or this game. The watch or the hand shaking. The hand obviously representing Joel teaching her the guitar. You need to have good hands to do that. I think the pacing of this game does have some issues when it tries to bring in some flashbacks. The biggest pacing issue is when the switch occurs. It's not handled as well as it could be because the pacing of that moment when they occur the switch is at the height. You want to see what happens, and then all of a sudden it's just switched. I think it should have been done right before that theater scene entirely. Would have been a little more interesting. Would have put a little more emphasis on Jesse dying, I think, seeing it from Abby's point of view and not Ellie. Because on Ellie's point of view, it's kind of just shrugged off, which is a little upsetting because I kind of actually enjoyed Jesse in this game. I think the line "bigot sandwich" was awful, and whoever thought of that should be included. Whoever thought about that line should be ashamed of themselves, for sure. I think some cutscenes are a little redundant. Like, what was the point of them doing it in a weed farm? Was that just to seem cool and hip? It's pretty fucking awkward. There is, however, incredible detail in this game between the animations that show off the fear in Abby's face when she's on the skyscraper. Like, it's mentioned right at the start of the game that she has a fear of heights. Pretty, like, not noticeably, but, like, a little more subtle. And then later on in the game, when you're on the skyscraper, you can see the facial animations of the fear and terror face. It's pretty key. It's pretty cool looking. Key hats off to the animators for sure on that one. I mean, it's heartbreaking, but it's also good writing when considering to make a sequel to a much beloved game 7 years ago. Would any storyline make the fans as happy as the first game? No. This game was doomed to a division once a sequel was announced because a good majority of the fans felt the first game ended perfectly and it didn't need a sequel. I, however, wanted to see certain things, which this game delivered on. I wanted to see Ellie find out about Joel's dirty deeds. One of the best scenes in the game, I think, was handled like that. There's a 15-minute part in this game where that scene is. It's wonderful. I wanted to see Joel be a father again. I got to see that when it was her birthday. Like, fantastic. I wanted to be more engrossed in the world that made me love the first game, but also be disgusted in the world it's created. I wanted a story that would test more morally hard decisions like the ending of the first game did. I got all that, and it's interesting how divisive this game is, because I think the ending of the first game could also be divisive if you saw the game through Marlene's eyes. I am saying, if you're on the fence about this game, and you think the leaks ruined it for you, they don't. It's like when Uncharted 4's plot got leaked, people thought it would be a steaming pile of shit, but that game hits some kind of way every time I play it, man. I don't think the leaks do the game justice, and I wish I went into it more blind than I did, because it would have made some of the spoiled moments more impactful for me. I don't believe this game is perfect. I think the first game is still a bit better. Don't get me wrong, story-wise, but I do think the first game, gameplay-wise, is improved upon here. The second part of this game is pretty well exceptional when it comes to combat and stuff like that. Anyways, just a bit of my thoughts on the game. I had a good time with it, I'm not ashamed to say that, but, is it a perfect game? No. Do I see why people are divisive on it? Sure, of course. When you kill off a main character that was much beloved to the fans, of course it's going to spark some outrage, but I think that was the goal of it, to set off the quest for revenge. You don't go on a quest for revenge unless it is Joel who dies. Any other character who dies in Ellie's, she's probably not going to react the way she does. So it makes sense for it to be him. Anyways, this is the Champion Gaming signing off. Thanks for listening to me. Comment down below. Let me know what you thought of the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.